that would allow huge numbers of new electronic communications to be examined with no judicial oversight. The loss of constitutional principles is predicted in prophecy. Testimonies for the Church, Volume 5, page 451, tells us that the United States shall repudiate every principle of its Constitution. I'm Hal Mayer, reminding you to keep the faith.
Well, I'm glad that you stayed with us. We are talking with Tom and Elaine Waters on this book that we're coming out with, we're publishing, For Better or For Worse. And I like this saying, it's called a kicker in publisher terms, saying practical advice that works. And I love getting books that share practical experiences, real life things, but you got a solution for it. He says, I want to hear solutions. So in your marriage, you thought you had this perfect marriage. You know, you were going to get married, you know, this I do stuff, and you may kiss the bride, and things are going to be like you were going to live happily ever after, but it didn't happen that way.
Honeymoon started off pretty good.
I had some challenges there, too.
We did have some challenges, too, in the honeymoon, didn't we?
Yeah, and that's in the story.
Yeah.
It is.
And I didn't know that part of the story, and I thought they had problems right the minute they started flying away. They had problems.
We got over those. There were little things, but we started finding out things about each other.
Okay.
We could communicate about anything. I mean, we thought anything.
And we did.
And we did. We
This
talked
was
all the
after
time.
your marriage?
Before.
Okay, before.
He loved to call me, and you know, he was never in a hurry to get off the phone. He always had lots to say, and I thought, wow, this is great, because this man is really sharing what's up here in his brain, and most men don't have a lot to say, but he really had lots to say.
You're saying that most men don't have a lot up here?
No, sorry.
Okay, I didn't think so. I just want to make that clear.
Sorry.
Most men have a lot up here, but they don't tell it to their wife.
But before you married, you were sharing
Yeah.
everything, and you didn't want to hang up. So you was finding more things to share, I'm sure.
We were sharing fine until after we got into the workaday world and the pressures of life. And
Yeah, but okay, now I'm going to back up.
yeah. Well, we just
So
started going
didn't you have
forward.
pressures? Didn't you have pressures of the world before you got married?
You
Yeah.
had the same job.
We did.
You had the same job. No, you didn't change your job, but somehow you made time to talk. But you're saying once you got married, then
Started taking some things for granted
Okay.
that I didn't really realize I was. God, I mean, I'm with her all the time now. Before we got married, I was on the 3 to 11 shift. She was on the day shift, so we hardly ever saw each other.
Okay.
So every chance we got, we talked. And every weekend that we could be together, we were together. But after we got back, I did get a job switch, which there is some stress in a job switch, but it wasn't really a good excuse.
But it brought him from 3 to 11 to day shift.
Now we're together all the time. We drove to work together. So
is that an
it was, I mean, it was wonderful, but what started happening
Wonderfully
was...
bad or wonderfully
Well, it
good?
was wonderfully good to be on the same shift,
Okay.
be able to have our evenings together, but she started noticing. What did you start noticing when I was
That
driving
he
to
never
work?
had anything to talk about anymore. We would drive 30 to 40 minutes to work, and he wouldn't even say a word. He's just looking out the window.
So she says, honey, how come you never talk to me anymore? That bugged me, because now I have to answer that. So, you know, it wasn't funny then. I said,
Right.
well, I'm not a morning person, which was true.
Right.
I wasn't lying, because I was used to the 3 to 11 shift, and I could sleep in a little
You was
bit.
given a partial truth.
Right, partial
Okay.
truth.
Okay.
The best I knew how.
Right.
And I knew he wasn't a morning person.
Yeah.
So then she said, well,
How come you don't talk on the way home? I mean, it's 4:30 in the afternoon. We're
see,
past
now
morning.
That's stressful, because
Yeah.
now she's putting me under the gun.
Right. Well, she's calling your bluff.
Right. So I said, well, you know, had a lot going on at work today.
Yes.
And that's what I wanted to hear about.
Just need to clear my mind a little bit. Just give me time, you know. I just
And
need
she
a little
wanted to hear.
space.
She wanted to hear those problems, or
Yeah.
just
I
you
wanted
didn't
to hear
want
about
share. You
him.
didn't want to share it.
I want
Yeah.
to hear about him.
Before that, I could share anything, what was going on at work. I'd just ramble on about
Right.
stuff, you know. What was pressures, but things were happening, and we're starting to find out little flaws in each other. We're starting to find out that, you know, well, I thought she was just always vivacious and, you know, on top of the world, but so we were seeing differences, and those differences started to be magnified. And what we call it now, and what we talk about in the book, is that we started entering silently entering the fatal cycle. And we've watched marriage after marriage go into this cycle. And praise God, we've been able to be a part of helping some of those marriages break that cycle. But we didn't know we were going that way.
Right.
And so the communication was breaking down, and the more she pressured me to talk, the more I
The
didn't
less
want
you
to
had to
talk.
say.
And that's how it works.
Right. Yeah.
But we do have solutions in this book, because we did spiral down to, a situation that we share, early in the book that we wouldn't have time to share in today's program, but we got down to some pretty ugly stuff.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, because it is a long thing, but what I remember the most, which I guess is because I relate to that with Deb years ago before I started learning these things, was that you guys had I don't know if it was an argument or something, but you ended up, Elaine, I think running upstairs or something and
Well, hiding out in the office on the floor crying.
hiding out in the office in the corner of the floor crying. And what was your thoughts? I mean, you had this argument like, what's
What's going to happen to us? I can't believe it. Does he even love me, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, she felt very unloved. I couldn't understand why, but
Things are okay with you.
one of the things we talk about, and I think a lot of people can enter into this, men will be driving down the road and they'll be looking dead ahead, and just like they've got to concentrate on their drive, we call it driving on ice.
Yeah.
Like they really got to concentrate, but you put their fishing buddy in the passenger seat and they'll hardly ever look at the road. They're
Yeah.
talking to their buddy. And this hurts women,
Yes.
and we went through some of those communication struggles deeply, but God began to show us, and we do have very practical solutions that work.
And I've read those, and they are practical solutions, and that's why, I'm thankful that we're publishing this for you too, because
Great to be able to work together on it.
it's great. I'm excited because we've known each other, and you need solutions, because I believe that many marriages go through these things, but they don't know where to go to.
That's right.
They don't know, and like you said, men many times seem to be the last to know.
Well, one of the things that we talk about, Dwight, in the book, and it's pivotal to us, is the me versus the us focus.
Okay.
When I'm in the me focus and Elaine's in the me focus, whose way are we going to go? My way or her way? She was raised a certain way, I was raised a certain way. We come into the marriage with baggage. Well, certainly if she wants to come along with me, we'll be all right.
That's right.
That's my way of thinking,
Right.
but a woman has her way of thinking, and especially sensitive emotions. And so we began to realize that the me focus is only concerned about what you can do to please me and what you can do to avoid crossing my will. If you do all those things right, I'll be happy. No, that's not true. We found out that even if you try to please somebody, if the me focus is there, it's not going to be happiness. And so we talk in the book about how we move from the me focus to the us focus. When I'm in the us focus, and that's where we live our lives now, not that we don't ever get tempted to the me focus, but we live our lives in the us focus because it's so rich and fulfilling. I can't outgive my wife. It's an amazing thing. The more I do to reach to her heart, the more she responds, and that's God's economy.
Yes. And
God
that's,
gives.
And that's that text that
Yeah.
you read, Ephesians 5:25.
Yeah. The more I give to her, the more she gives back to me. And it's not that I'm giving to her to get.
Right.
That's the difference.
That's a pretty good key.
I'm giving to her because now I'm finding out it is more blessed to give than to receive. Okay? And we have a reciprocating marriage that just goes, it gets better and better. Not give me, but let me give you. And in the result is giving back.
And so you learn, you're obviously you're teaching people in this book these practical
Simple,
ways.
yeah.
Simple.
But powerful.
But powerful because they're God's ways. That's what you're saying.
We talk about how to have effective communication because most couples break down in the area of communication. We did for years. So what are the keys to effective communication? How can we really have a forgiving spirit? What do you do when there's things that happen in the marriage that are very painful and hurtful, disappointing? How do we find that forgiveness, and how do we develop respect for the other person in the marriage? These are all things that are discussed. So it's an exciting thing.
And you found out years ago that I know you mentioned this, but just I want to recap on that men and women are different, and you need to listen to learn what the other thinks.
I tell you, one of the greatest lessons, Dwight, that I've learned in my marriage and communication is how to listen with understanding.
Yes.
I used to listen like this, okay? Let me get enough of what you're saying that I can formulate my response.
Right.
And she'd be halfway through saying something. I know what you're going to say. You don't even have to say that. I know exactly what you're thinking.
And you might have,
But I was
that's
totally off on the attitude.
Yeah.
And one day I remember my wife saying, but honey, I've changed. It's like,
You have?
you know, learning
You have?
to really listen with understanding has
Yes.
meant so much to my wife.
Amen.
To really hear, not to give a response, but to hear, to understand, and then be prepared to give a response.
That is tremendous. And you know, I just want to let the viewers know also that this book is going to be a missionary book, because what you're focused on is to get it out, because this can go to anybody, correct?
That's right.
That's right.
I want the
It's
neighbors.
not just a certain denomination, the neighbors. I mean, you're saying everyone around the world have these problems, right? It doesn't matter about race. It doesn't matter about language, culture. It's the same.
I'd like churches to be able to buy cases of these and share them. Yeah.
Okay. And so on your website and on our website, we have these prices for cases. I think you can get these for as little as maybe down to 89 cents. It's 128 pages. It's power packed. It's simple and practical. And let's get them out so that people can hand them out, because it's a major problem.
It's a new kind of sharing book.
Yeah, I think it is. We were talking, I think this is the first sharing book that we've done. We've done a lot of them for marriage. We've printed many marriage books, but a sharing marriage book that people can buy at a reasonable price to pass out.
Well, this is the area so many people are struggling in, and everybody wants to have a happy home, and it starts with the happy relationship. So rather
And it can be.
That's right. Rather than seeing the marriage break down, we can encourage other people. These are simple things that they can implement, and Jesus and the power of God working through those principles will make a difference.
Okay, well, it's been great to have you on. We're out of time. That clock sometimes works against us. But make sure that you look on those websites, Restoration International or Renda Publications, and you too can have, I always say, a better way of life, but a better family life. But you need to start today. Don't put it off.
By working together, 1.7 million copies of The Passion of Love were distributed around the country, resulting in an unprecedented partnership with Walmart that led to over 1,000 Bible studies. By working together, over 6 million copies of the Ten Commandments Twice Removed were shared around the world, resulting in more than 20 churches now keeping the Bible Sabbath. By working together, we have shipped almost 1 million Bibles to spiritually thirsty Christians in Africa, touching the lives of 20 million people for Christ. Working together is what allows Remnant Publications to spread truth-filled books around the world to hasten the Lord's coming. Will you join us in that mission? Will you help us reach the world for Jesus, one book at a time?